Hello, fifth graders. So today we're ready for part 3 of our text features in nonfiction books. And somebody in our survey yesterday suggested that we try to do a split screen. So here we go. I do think things are small, but we're going to go ahead and try it right now anyway. So it says, today, finally, we are going to name graphic text features. These show information in the visual form. So I think we're going to look at things like maps, photographs, captions, diagrams, labels. Okay, so if I go on, a photograph is an image that has been captured with a camera. It shows a real life image. So you can't call a drawing that you've made a photograph. It has to actually be something that you would capture with a camera. So go ahead and come over here and fill out on the right hand side. A photograph is an image that has been captured with and you need to write camera in there. Camera. Okay. It shows a real life image. Okay. Name a reason why authors tend to use many photographs in nonfiction books. Let's go to the next screen and see what we find. Says authors want to display real life examples to help the reader understand the topic. So if they can show you a real picture, it's going to mean a lot more than just somebody's drawing. So you need to go ahead and write so that they can help readers understand the topic. And you can write that right down in that area. Okay, let's look at the next one, illustration. An illustration is an image that has been drawn by hand. Drawn by hand. Okay. So notice the difference between that frog and this frog. One of them is an illustration. One of them is a photograph. You need to know the difference between those two words. Let's go to caption. Oh, photograph and illustration. Didn't realize that one was there. Okay, so you can see that somebody drew this and painted the clouds behind it, and this is an actual photograph of a sunflower. Okay, the image does not look like the image does not look like a sunflower you would see in real life, and that's because it's been painted. So, okay, now let's go to what a caption is. A caption is a sentence, or it can be more than one sentence, a group of sentences, so it could be 4 or 5, that is near a photograph or an illustration that explains the image. So when you see a whole big image or a photograph of this part down here is what we call the caption. So a caption is a sentence or group of sentences near a photograph or illustration that explains the image. Next one, diagram. This is always cool, I think. A diagram is an image that shows the parts of something. A diagram contains labels. So these little things over here are the labels, and it's pointing to where those at. It seems very basic right here, but that's because we want you to learn the words and what the vocabulary is. So go ahead and fill in the blanks over here for diagram. I'm not going to do that since somebody in our class said that all I do is read it and tell you where to put it. So you can do it on your own. Okay. The next one, label. The labels are the words that are used on a diagram. So just like this is a label. And so when we look at this is a label. This is a label, and boop, this is a label. Okay. So labels are words used on a diagram. The label, it names the parts of the diagram. Go ahead and fill this section in over here with the words that need to be used. Okay, so the entire rectangle shows the diagram and the words are the label. So this thing has 2 vocabulary words on it. We have a diagram and labels. You couldn't have a diagram without the labels because the labels, this would just be considered an illustration. So if we go back to this picture is an illustration. There are no labels. This is an illustration with the labels, which makes it a diagram. Mm. Next one is what we call a close-up. A close-up is an image of something that is viewed at a very close range. It allows the reader to see intricate details of an object. When I was little, we used to get a book in the mail like once a month, and it would have really close-up pictures of like a basketball or a football or of grass or part of the carpet. And we always had to guess what it was, and I used to love that. So this is showing what the frog's skin actually looks like when it's up close. So it's not perfectly round little circles. It's oblong, and some are big and some are little. So a close up of the skin, and then I was going to say, oh, that's it. So go ahead and fill in the bottom section over here. Okay, next page. Oh, I love this one. This is called a cutaway, or it's sometimes called a cross section. A cutaway is an image that shows the reader the inside of something. So this is your frog, and it's like they removed the layer, and now we can see inside, like his heart and his intestines and his rib cage. So it often appears that a portion of the object has been removed or cut out to allow the reader to view the inside of the object. I just love those because I loved science class when we got to do those cutaways. I'm going to pull up the next picture because it's a little closer. It says, what is being shown with this cutaway? The organs that are found inside the frog. Isn't that cool? Love it. Okay, go ahead and fill in your words up here. And let's go to our next one, which is a map. Okay. A map shows the location of an object or an occurrence. So like if they wanted to show where the hurricane just hit or where the snow just fell, that would be an occurrence. So that all this blue is where the cricket frogs live. This pink section is coastal cricket frogs. So a map is often important to help us understand where things are at, so that in our minds we know what part of the country or what part of the continent or what part of the world is being displayed. What information is being displayed on this map? Right, here's your answer. The locations where species of frogs can be found. And which species of frogs can be found in Arkansas? Well, you'd have to look at where Arkansas is. It's this right here at the tip of the arrow, and it says the eastern cricket frog because it's dark blue, and the Blanchard cricket frog because it's light blue. So Arkansas has two kinds of frogs in it. So you're going to want to fill that area in for the map. Okay, next one is a timeline. These are all things that we find in nonfiction books, and we need to keep our eyes open to be able to find them. A timeline is a linear. They highlighted those first four letters because you can remember timeline with a line or a linear representation of important events that order in the order they occur in. A lot of times we will see history in a timeline. You know, in this year the president was born, and this year he became a president, this year he died. So those are timelines. And timelines have different forms. This is called a vertical one because it's up and down. This one is a horizontal one because it goes across. Okay. How long does it take for a frog to complete its growth cycle? Well, we would want to look at these words over here and see where that's at. And we find that it's 12 to 16. So this up here is 6 to 9 days. This top part where it's yellow is the beginning. And then it goes to what happens at 7 to 10 days, what happens when the frog is 4 weeks, what happens when the frog is 6 to 9 weeks, what happens when it's 12 weeks. So that we start at the top on this one and read down. What happens just before a frog's body enlarges and its tail shortens? Well, we find it over here. We say, oh, it sprouts its legs. Okay, now we're ready over here for charts and graphs. We're getting close to being done. Charts and graphs are graphical representations of data. The data is represented by bars, lines, or slices. So this one happens to be a pie graph. They're not always pie graph. It can be a bar graph. It can be a line graph. It can be a pictograph. But this one shows frogs in a pie graph. And then you always have to have the labels over to the side to show what things mean. Okay, so you can fill in the information for that. And we're going to look at tables lastly. So a table is data that's arranged in rows and columns. And if you remember in math, we talked about row, row, row your boat goes across and columns go up and down. So this has a couple of rows, it has some columns, so it's definitely a table. Which order of amphibians has the least number of species? And again, since I'm not doing this as a PowerPoint, the answer is right there. And you can see that this kind, which I don't even know how to say, Gynophomia, has 191 species. This middle one has 642 species. This Anura has 6,221 species. So our answer is right there. Okay, wow, there are many different kinds of text features. Let me show you the table I created to organize them. So sometimes we have pages, like the title page. That was our first part. We have table of contents. We have index, glossary, guide words. Then we did a section within the text, things that we would find like the bullet points in the text box and the hyperlinks. And then the last section that we just did is all of these over here in the blue. The photograph, the illustrations, the captions, the diagrams and labels. All of those are arranged in a table. Take a moment to look over this list. Can you visualize most of them? Can you remember what they looked like? That's what it's asking. Can you visualize them? Do you remember what a table of contents looks like? Do you remember what a glossary looks like? Okay. Do you know what features make this a table? Well, that's because this is a row, this is a row. Oh my, 12 rows back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And the columns, there are 3 columns. Let's review. First, I will describe a text feature. Challenge yourself to answer the question by identifying the text feature. Then I will provide a visual support for those who aren't sure yet of the answer. And finally, I'll reveal the correct answer. So this page over here should all the way be filled out. And I'm going to show you the first one of this card. So directly below a photograph, there is an explanation sentence. What is this type of text feature called? Is it a label, a glossary, a caption, a bullet point, or a subheading? You should have a letter in mind. And I'm going to scroll to the next slide, and it's actually going to show us a picture of it, but it's not going to give you the answer yet. Oh, it does give you the answer. Doggone it, I didn't think it did. So there it is. That's the picture. Remember, we talked about this down here being a caption. Okay, so I'm going to have you work on some some task cards to see if you can remember all of these things. Which type of text feature shows the sequence of events in order that they occur? So that's one of the text features we have to know. Is it a map? Is it a chart? Is it a timeline? Is it an illustration? Or is it a cutaway? This is going to be your assignment to work on these today. Hey, have a great day and make sure your book is all filled out.